And now I'll call this August 15th, 2024 regular board meeting to order. Can we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
We got something.
All right. Item 1.03, public forum. I believe we have one sign up. Ms. Rothenberg.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the new school year. I wanted to just speak briefly tonight to share a few items on behalf of the MRH NEA. First of all, the work of the curriculum committee in identifying new resources and preparing to pilot 2 of them has been going very well, and teachers I've spoken with are really excited to jump in next week. The ECC also had a chance over the summer to identify some resources to fill gaps until we're able to pilot something new for literacy as well, and the time to do this important work was much appreciated. In addition to the curriculum committee, I know other elements of the CBA are benefiting teachers already, and so I wanted to reinforce our appreciation for the collaboration that led to the agreement. Of course, there have been some bumps in the road as everyone works to understand and implement all the elements of the CBA, but I'm hopeful that continued communication will lead to quick resolutions of issues as they arise. Lastly, as you prepare to discuss the district's climate and culture and exit and stay survey data tonight, I wanted to thank the board for their interest in the union's survey data that we shared with you last week. We understand that there's a lot to digest and look forward to presenting the priorities as we see them at the communication lab with you next month so that they can be used for goal setting. Thanks as always for the work you do for our students and staff. I think it's going to be a great year.
Thank you. Item 2.01, approval of consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I wanted to make a motion to amend the consent agenda, just to move items 206 and 209 to action items. I just had a couple of questions about those.
So we currently have a motion to amend the consent agenda. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No? Okay, motion carries. All right. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended?
Motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
All in favor? I'm sorry, can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I have to abstain.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you. All right. Study items 3.01, Board Policy IM, presented by Dr. Jansen.
Thank you. So this item is coming back at the request of the board from our last discussion around the program evaluations to further explore if the program evaluations that were included were necessary. And what we found in our research is that 2 of the items actually do not need to be included. So those 2 items actually have been removed and are being brought forward as a modification to policy IM. Are there any questions?
I just had a question. Do those sort of fall under curriculum? So like, will they be sort of addressed elsewhere in the list?
So they will actually come up and you will see them still, and they will actually be on a rotating cycle, so every other year. They will still come, and then in the board notes, we will include updates because some of them are requirements outside of policy IM, but they don't actually have to be presented to the board as a program evaluation.
I got it. So those come up in a different way.
Yes.
I got you. Okay, thank you.
So 3.0, or does anybody else have any questions? No? Okay, 3.02, Academic Calendar Adjustment by Dr. Crispin.
All right, good evening all. We have a small adjustment on the academic calendar for this school year. In alignment with item 6.1 agreement, we would like to have a teacher work day on January 3rd, because that is agreed upon as a work day at the start of the semester, or start of the quarter in this case. So I circled that on the calendar. No impact on students. It was already allocated for a teacher professional development day, and we've already made the adjustments internally. Any questions?
So what's the difference between a professional development day and a work day?
Great question. That's outlined in our collective bargaining agreement, what that looks like for work day, work year. You can find those in section 6 in that collective bargaining agreement. But really, the difference is who directs the activities on those days. That's a really the delineation between the two.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Item 3.03, special tuition agreement by Dr. Shanda.
Thank you. So, good evening, board, committee members, staff. I'm here to present special tuition agreement for individuals who are seeking opportunities to continue their education and training. This is specifically targets our critical shortage areas, and that would be identified by the district. The purpose of this agreement is to allow those individuals to participate in those activities with a repayment agreement contingent upon a service agreement. So those individuals would have to stay employed with the district a specific period of time. For the purpose of this agreement, we indicated it would be 3 years. This was an ask of the board. There was some conversation in our last board meeting to be able to put an agreement in place where if the district did put forth financial resources to support the education of that particular employee, and then also compensated the employee for those coursework, that we would be able to allow the individual to stay employed for the district for a certain number of years. And so it has been vetted by our district legal staff as well. And this is a copy of the agreement that I have listed here before you. What questions might I be able to answer for you?
Would it be possible, I guess, to do like a, I guess for my colleagues, this question is, would you be interested in perhaps changing it? I feel like 3 or nothing is kind of a lot. To do like sort of a sliding scale. If you leave after 1 year, you pay back 2/3. You leave after 2, you know, that sort of thing. Because you have received some benefit of it by that employee staying at least a year or 2 years. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't do people, yeah, I mean, just a suggestion.
If that is the will of the board, I definitely can bring something back for you.
You want to make a motion?
I think
Well,
there's
it's a
more
study.
discussion.
It's a study.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a study.
Okay, then never mind.
I'm just trying to get other people's thoughts on that idea.
Yeah, I agree with, I was going to make a different comment, but I'll just answer that one first. I agree with Jenny's suggestion that we at least have proposal B, which shows this sliding scale of 2/3 after year 1, 1/3 after year 2, and then forgiven at year 3. So that I'd like to see what that would look like. And the other question I have is, what are maybe the 1 or 2 critical areas that you anticipate this proposal being used or already being deployed in this academic year?
So right now, the current need is for Project Lead the Way. There certainly is coursework that is required from the individual who, if they're not already certified to take classes outside of the school hours, and then those courses do cost in some cases. And so the district would pay for the course itself and then compensate the individual for the time that they would take to be certified in that particular area to teach the courses for our students.
Is the course certification transferable? Like, can you move it from district to district?
So once the person is certified to teach PLTW, yes, they would be certified. It's not specific to a district or a geographical location. They would be certified in another capacity if they left the district and taught somewhere else.
Is there, could you also bring back, when you come with the next proposal, what you propose would be a budget impact? Like how much tuition do you anticipate we'd be spending this year? What might be coming in the next academic year? And would this include other things besides PLTW? What about, say, math or areas in science or reading specialist or math
Not for
specialist?
this particular year. I will say the district in the past has provided special tuition opportunities for individuals in the past. I know, based upon what I'm aware of, that has been for gifted certification. Again, I could probably do some more research to find other areas where,
No, that's not necessary. I was just wondering what you were anticipating, maybe as far as a budget impact for this academic year, maybe next academic year. If this year it's PLTW,
so the
what might
current,
be next year?
the current need is PLTW, Project
Right.
Lead the Way.
And is this outside of the existing budget item for tuition reimbursement?
It is, yes.
Okay. All right.
So does this not apply to like regular tuition reimbursement?
It is not.
Okay, so this is just a special circumstance, okay.
And to answer your question, Brian, we typically are 100% certified. So you may see something like English language, a ELL teacher, or gifted, as Dr. Ambrose Phillip shared. So we typically don't have to enact it because we have a lot of applicants for positions.
It's really those critical shortage areas and hard to fill positions.
When we've had the situation of having an existing teacher become certified in like teaching AP courses, is that something that would exist here? I know we have had the situation of someone becoming certified to teach AP and leaving the district very quickly after achieving that. So again, a cost is expended by the district that is then, had not, fully actualized for the district too.
Absolutely. You could certainly put those safeguards in place after, as a former AP teacher, of course, there are associated costs with that, so.
What about things that are, like the DESE requires for, like if they all of a sudden change standards and then everybody has to, take additional training? I mean, I think that really shouldn't be part of an agreement like this. Conversely, if you are taking something that is really more about career advancement than about maintaining your current position, I think that's kind of how I would draw the distinction between the two.
Okay. I'll draft something and make it a little bit broader and bring it back.
Thank you.
Any other questions or? Okay. I'm sorry. Okay, so then the next item is 3.04, consolidate earned leave to PTO by Dr. Ambrose Phillips.
That's what I was thinking. I shouldn't have popped off. I forgot I was right presenting the next one. So this one is consolidated earned leave for PTO. And the reason why we're bringing this forward is currently we have earned personal leave that is in place for individuals, certified staff members who attend expeditions or capstone experiences. And so it really affects our elementary staff members and our middle school staff members. And currently they earn 1 day of earned personal leave for every overnight experience. And so currently what happens is they have a specific period of time that they have to use that leave before they're actually paid out for it. It does not roll over into the next school year. So some of those expeditions are pretty late in the school year, so individuals are either forced to use that leave or get paid out for it, and they would certainly like to roll it over. And so in the past, I've come to you and requested if you would allow them to carry it over for the next year. This request is specifically asking if we can just convert the earned personal leave to PTO. So therefore, it would just roll over and I wouldn't have to bring that item back, and then they would not have to use it or lose it, and they wouldn't feel forced to use it before the end of the year, which would cause a sub shortage for us as well. So that is the purpose of this particular item. Are there any questions I might be able to answer for you?
And my understanding is this is something that y'all have been working with the union about.
Yes, it's something that has, even prior to the union, we've worked with the union, but it was an item also from CBTF as well, and currently with the union.
It was supposed to come in like May. I missed the mark on that one.
That's fine. All right. Any questions? All right, moving on. 4.01, Program Evaluation School Climate by Vince Estrada and Dr. Amber Phillips. You again.
I want to publicly thank Chris McGee for driving the presentation.
Oh.
Dr. McGee. So thank you, Dr. McGee. Good evening, school board and community. I'm here to talk a little bit about climate and culture and just report out on the climate and culture survey that we administered in the spring. Go ahead, Chris, next slide. And really the purpose of this work is really, one thing about education is all good work in education is grounded in relationships. No matter what strategy you want to use, it always starts there and it's connected to your culture for sure. The other purpose really is to look at some of our strengths and celebrate those, but look for opportunities to grow and to line up resources to support those growth areas, like professional development. It's extremely important that we give voice to all members of our community, so there's a family survey, a student survey, and a staff survey. And also, the final thing is that we want to intersect that with strategic planning, which you guys have committed to, and professional development. So that's really the purpose of these climate and culture surveys. Much more than just checking the box. But speaking of checking the boxes, next slide, Chris. It is an M6 requirement. But MRH, we're a bit of overachievers on that because we're expectations to give one survey a year and report out. We do 2 a year. We've chosen to do that. We wanted to have multiple data points. We wanted to see what happened from the beginning of the year to the end, but also to compare fall results to fall results and spring to spring. So we've really committed to that work. We are using a reliable tool that the PBIS, National PBIS group created and modified to meet the Missouri standards. And I mentioned that we work closely with Mizzou on, in fact, we gave them some feedback. The families, thank you for giving us some feedback about the parent survey because it's clunky. There's a few, it doesn't allow you to kind of like, not sure. And so we kind of gave that feedback to PBS. We're going to work with them and maybe modify in that survey. So we are doing it out of some compliance, but we want to do it so it's meaningful for us. Next slide is on the strategic plan. It lines up perfectly with 4R Health. 4R Health is one of the board committees, and we have MOT teams to support 4R Health as the anchor of our strategic plan. And not surprisingly, climate culture really connects with the social and emotional health of our community, all constituents, students, staff, and families. So the participation rate, next slide, was not as good in the spring. And I knew it. I knew it was going to be, I was in charge of administering it. I'm like, we're going to get lower participation. Not bad with families and staff, certainly lower with middle school and high school. And we know how to correct that. The spring is a busy time with standardized testing expeditions, and we just didn't find that good window. But there was still enough participation to glean meaningful information from the data. Go ahead, Chris. So we'll look at some of the results. Before we get into the results, just a quick summary on the survey. It's on a 4-point Likert scale. When we get the results back from PBIS, they kind of color code your scores. So green is like doing pretty good, yellow is a growth opportunity, and red is a significant concern. And none of the surveys that we administered did we get any red marks, but we definitely had several growth opportunities. The other thing is a lot of the results you'll see are either the specific question themselves, but with the family and staff survey, which is longer, they kind of group the questions into certain categories. So as you kind of do a data dive in an area of concern, you'll have more specific questions from which to explore, and we'll make that available to the buildings. In the student survey, nothing was in red. It was largely the same or slightly improved in most areas. And the thing I was most encouraged by, there was a slight improvement from staff treatment with respect, which is really critically important to culture. And that went from an area of growth in the fall to a green area in the spring. So we felt good about that. You can skip the next slide, Chris, and go ahead and go to staff results. Again, nothing in red here. Same or slightly improved in some areas, except physical environment. I kind of thought, is that because the building's a little tired in the spring versus the fall? Maybe, I'm not sure. But the thing I really honed in on is the kind of growth opportunity, continuing growth opportunity on peer-adult relations and climate teams. And we know, we've talked about this a lot, that's the work that we're committed to and we need to focus on, and our PD's kind of reflecting all that. As I mentioned earlier, the survey, like an area like peer-adult relations, there's probably 8 questions that relate to that, so we can give that information specifically to the buildings as well. These are district summaries. The next one was the family survey. Probably the strongest participation rate was from families. The one feedback was, and I get it, I looked at this survey like, yeah, it's hard, because some questions that we're asking families, they just don't have information about because it's about the kid's classroom. So we're giving that feedback to the PBI's folks. I'm not sure if they can adjust it, but I kind of hope they are. Again, nothing in red. Same or slightly improved in most areas, except this one, there's a bugaboo. We always get rated low on sharing climate data. I'm here to tell you that we are sharing climate data. That's what we're doing right now. But I guess we can do better as well to kind of continue to roll it out. In terms of next steps, next slide, Chris, is we're going to really push this out to the building leadership teams, the MTSS teams, our building climate teams. We're going to make sure to have the information that's helpful for them. We're going to try to align it with our strategic plan, like for our health and our MOT teams. We're definitely committed to folding our PD around culture. That's how we spent 3 days this year's administrative team. It was really focused on culture. We are going to adjust the spring survey administration to get a better participation rate. The biggest thing I'm really committed to, and there's some colleagues in the area, and Dr. Jamison's connecting with me too, that have a better support staff survey. The staff survey we have is very teacher-centric, and there's probably a better survey for our support staff that don't spend as much time working directly with students. So we're going to try to find a survey so we can really get a higher participation rate there. We already talked about working with PBIS and adjusting the parent survey. I think we're committed to this survey for about 2 to 3 years so we can kind of collect a body of data from which to do some work, and then we'll kind of explore if we want to do something different. But this is free, and we have good partners with Mizzou. So I kind of feel pretty good about it because they're willing to work with us on those things. And that's it. So any questions about the climate culture survey? We're going to administer it again in the fall. Hope to find a support staff survey, and we'll report back out with those results. Thank you. Thank you. And Dr. Amber Phillips has the second half of this presentation.
So I'm here to present on the stay and exit surveys. Thank you again to Dr. McGee. So the purpose of the stay and exit surveys, again, I'm not going to read this to you because I know you've had an opportunity to digest it, but for the most part, the purpose of the stay and exit surveys are to discuss why people are happy with MRH and the reasons and the factors that might contribute to them not being. So looking at the specific reasons why they stay and then those reasons why they might leave. Understand our employment practices a lot better from the employee's perspective, and then to develop the next steps, how we're going to improve the satisfaction and create a positive workplace environment. So the strategic plan alignment, there's two places in particular that I want to pinpoint, and that is to enhance recruitment and retention, and then also just, again, focus on creating a positive and inclusive climate and culture. So these are the results of the exit surveys. Sorry that it is very small, but it's a lot of information I wanted to make sure that I put on one slide. There were 8 individuals who actually completed the exit surveys. 5 were support staff and 3 were certified. The tenure varied from 6 months to I think 17 years. And those are the locations from individuals who actually completed the surveys, and then a couple of questions that I pulled out. Why did you leave the district? Various reasons. Some were personal reasons. One individual actually retired. There were other things that were added about central office. They also left because of higher staff, higher salary in another place. And then they also wanted to be in a situation where they felt like that they were working with more experienced administrators, and also that there wasn't as much turnover. So we know that addressing turnover is a factor that we want to make sure that we're approaching. And then what could have been done to allow you to remain to stay. It varies from nothing to some people absolutely love their job, but it was compensation. There are other things about just making sure that we have better communication, less boundaries, and enhanced experiences for our employees. What comments do you have about the district's salary and benefits? They felt that the benefits were good. Salary continued to come up as a concern throughout both the exit surveys and the stay surveys. They're very appreciative for the raises. They also made sure that they had really commendable remarks about the NEA agreement and the fact that they felt like some positive changes were happening, but they still felt like the salary was an area that we need to improve upon, especially when you're looking at our salary as it relates to other districts, comparable districts that are close to us. What do you least like about working for this company? Again, it varied, high-level things, environment, salary, the expectations. A lot of people really talked about the heavy workload and the expectations, and that was from various different places. Again, this is elementary, ECC, and the central office, and that would seem to be a common theme as well. And then other areas that came up, again, the change in leadership and then central office. What comments would you like to share? The individual who actually wanted to share a comment here, had positive things to say about the district and how they've grown during their tenure here and the friendships that they've made. Now, looking at the STAY survey, there were 92 people who completed the survey, 64 teachers, 2 admin, 13 counselor, librarians, nurses, 5 central office, 4 tech, and 4 operations. It tells you, again, the tenure, the location of the individuals, what factors have contributed to you staying, many comments about the students, the community, colleagues. Just a lot of people really were appreciative of the DEIB, or the diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, or accessibility. It's A in place. Some individuals certainly like the metaphors. There were other people who did not necessarily like the metaphors, but that was one of the things that I wanted to make sure I highlighted as well. And then the progressive decisions made by the board. Factors would contribute to you seeking employment outside of MRH. Salary, again, came up a lot. Trust, advancement. There are individuals who talked about just racism and microaggressions and things that they felt like that they had certainly experienced while they were employed here in our district. And then, again, there are some issues about just a divisive community and a dysfunctional board. So I tried to make sure that I lifted as many comments that I could in terms of particular categories and big common themes. The comments do you have about the district's salary and benefits? Again, we need to be more competitive, we know that. Benefits, they felt like were pretty good for themselves, but we needed to improve the benefits as it relates to the family plan. What do you least like about your job? It varies throughout there. You can see lots of things that they said, from PD days to turnover to, again, just overall relationships with lots of different groups, stakeholders, whether it's staff, students, and colleagues. What comments would you like to share? Again, some people really love it here. Make it anonymous, which we will do for next year. That it can be challenging for people to work here, and that, one of the things that one of the individuals said is that they're very optimistic about the direction that we're going in and hopeful that the information, they will feel heard and that action is actually going to take place. So recommendations. On the recommendations, one of the things that I feel like that we definitely want to do is, there are 4 listed here, but I definitely want to highlight just to continue to partner with the MRH NEA regarding our culture and climate survey and the retention efforts, and to also enhance the communication. Communication is one of the things that I think was highlighted, and also developing relationships, and then really focus on increasing salaries. We certainly look at salaries every year annually, but to make sure that we are looking at that data and trying to be as competitive as we possibly can. What questions might I be able to answer for you?
It's not really a question as much as a comment that our presenter, or our speaker, before we kind of got down to the nitty-gritty, had mentioned that we're going to have a communications lab, and I know that a lot of the information that is shared in this survey sort of crosses over with information that the teachers have provided the board as well. And so just so the community knows, we are having an opportunity, like the first opportunity, to meet with the NEA so that we can actually get maybe, hey, here are what the issues are, here are some suggested solutions, so that we are able to kind of not just look at data, but also do something about it.
And note that it doesn't just pertain, to staff, or it pertains to us too, as a board, the work that we do and how we can improve as a group in our communication and things too, so.
I have a question about the exit surveys. Were these done just through electronic means, or did anyone do in-person conversation?
Great question. So it was electronic. I did have one in-person survey. So one individual who actually did complete the electronic survey and also followed up with an in-person interview. I think that there was this time frame, though, where through survey implementation, that the MRH NEA survey also came out. So there was a gap of time when I did not have any responses. And then after that, when their survey closed, then I had a couple more. So for example, there were 12 individual certified staff members who actually exited the district. I anticipate that maybe some of those individuals completed that survey and did not complete this survey, so I really don't have an opportunity to capture their thoughts. So again, that's one of the reasons why I'm making sure that we're working collaboratively, so the NEA can have that data and the district can also have that data as well.
Yeah, I was particularly interested in the timing on the STAY survey and the NEA survey, knowing they have slightly different purposes, but had some similarities in questions. And I did notice that there were only 3 of the 12 certified staff who exited the district that took the exit survey. Obviously, you can't compel someone who's leaving to provide information, and many people decide that they don't want to do that regardless. So,
And the same was true, excuse me, the same was true for the STAY survey. So 90 of my 92 responses happened during the window of time when my survey was the only survey that was open. So again, we'll definitely collaborate to figure out how we can best get that data.
yeah, I noted the lower than I would like to see response to the STAY survey as well, and I assumed that there was some just survey fatigue going on then.
Correct.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Any other comments or questions? No? Okay, moving on. Finance, July finance statement by Chris Holzer.
Thank you. So July being the first month of the fiscal year, there isn't a whole lot going on yet, but there are a few things that we'll note as we go through. Perhaps. All right, 81% of our revenue is derived from local sources, most of which is from our local taxpayers, residential and commercial property owners. 14% of that is the next contribution, which is up slightly from prior years, it typically falls between 8 and 10%. It has increased. Transportation's now fully funded. Also, the state adequacy target's been increased for this fiscal year. Right now, we're just under $1 million, or 3% of the budget. This is an increase. While we're on revenue, there's a few things that I will note. You'll remember last month, we received about $145,000 in payments in lieu of taxes due to the Cambridge Commons TIF closing. So the excess was given to us. Also, I talked about the insurance check from our insurance company for the great freeze and flood of '22. That check, I'm told, was cut Monday of this week and is in the mail. So that is definitely progress. That'll be about $945,000. So that'll be a healthy addition to the fund balance. So we're anxiously awaiting that. We also have another check that's on its way, an MSD Green Grant. It's $45,000. This was part of our construction project. So if you've been in the high school, middle school parking lot, you've noticed the pavers. Those are semi-permeable pavers. That is a water detention area. So as the water comes through, it's meant to soak through those pavers. And MSD offered us a grant to subsidize the cost of constructing that in the middle of our parking lot. So expenses, salary and benefits compose just about 78% of our overall expenditures on the operating funds. July 31st expenditures were right at $632,000. Purchase services are about 3% of the budget, and lower than last year at this point, which was at 5.5%. Supplies are less than the prior year at $110,000. Last year we were about $232,000. Capital outlay about $76,000, a little over, just under $77,000, and a bit higher than the prior year. Overall, our operating expenses are $936 $1,220 through July. As of right now, we are budgeting a 30.6 ending fund balance for fiscal '25, but given the revenue sources that I've just described, that will increase. We're also wrapping up the ASBR. The submission deadline was today. We got that put in yesterday, so now we wait for the state to scrutinize that and make any adjustments that they request. However, we're in a great place with that. So as we are also entering tax rate season, so once we get those tax rates calculated and approved by the state auditor's office, and also approved by the board, we will be adjusting the budget at that point. So that I would expect that in the October meeting. Any questions?
Did we want to direct him to do anything in preparation of wanting to talk about a levy? Is there anything that we need to tell him?
I mean, I have questions about what we're using our community roundtable for, related to, but I don't think there's anything related to financials is a question I have, but it doesn't have anything to do with
Okay.
addressing Prince.
I had a different question.
Yeah.
Oh,
So the reimbursement from the insurance, I mean, is that money earmarked for anything? Is it just going back in the fund to replace funds that were spent?
It's going back in the fund. I dislike earmarks.
Right.
Those tend to be a little bit risky at times.
Right.
But right now, the intent is to put that back into the fund
So
balance.
then our fund balance would be closer to 10 million,
Yes, ma'am.
presumably, by the end of the year.
Yes, ma'am.
just because we have the money doesn't mean we have to spend it.
I understand, but I'm also thinking about, like, we
No,
cut
I'm-
some things if there are pressing things. I'm just trying to sort of say, here's
It does provide a little bit of room that
a
we.
cushion if we have
Right.
emergency or something that
It
is.
does, and there's no emergency.
Emergent, emergent.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
good
you.
question, thank you.
All right. Moving on to, what's this? 6. This is 6.01, Board of Education Committees Report. I guess if you want to put up the whatchamacallit, the spread chart thing. We've finalized like what our committee assignments are, and we've also got the list of dates for when our meetings are going to be. So this is, again, for everybody that's watching at home and here, this is sort of a brand new thing that we're doing. This kind of hasn't functioned in this way before, and we're hoping that these committees help us sort of take a deeper dive into what the strategic plan is doing and how we're interacting and monitoring the strategic plan. So there's really nothing to report yet, but stay tuned.
And then I think we just,
Can
sorry,
I
go
ask
ahead.
a question?
Yeah.
No, I was not able to be at the most recent work session, but I did watch it, and I had some questions about just clarifying the roles and responsibilities of board members versus staff in regards to the strategic plan committees. As these are getting up and rolling, I know they are new, and essentially just establishing them was the board goal from last year. I am committed to having some consistency across the expectations that we have for ourselves, as well as the staff liaisons who will have to keep us in line. Since they are committees of the board, they will require posted agendas and notes to be taken and things like that. So just curious if we have an idea about when we might establish that consistent expectation.
Would you like to take a stab at drafting some protocols?
I mean, I could certainly work with somebody to do something like that.
I mean, would you like to work together to do that?
With you? Sure, Josh.
All right.
Did you guys discuss that at all when you set them up?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, no. That's, I mean, no, but I mean.
I have no idea what yeah.
Well, I guess essentially what it would be is, there are committees, but at the same time, we don't really know anything. So,
I just want to make sure I follow through on
fair.
what it is that the expectation.
right, so why don't we,
as well as,
yeah. I was told that, yeah, I could direct us to do this, so.
Would it make
let's,
sense to go to one and kind of?
Let's have a, no, I think that
I mean, I
probably.
don't even know you guys attended them in the
Right,
past. What was?
and it is clear that first meetings are scheduled for September, various
Yeah.
September dates. So, I mean, I think living into them it may be a good idea. And again, I think as long as we're all keeping our expectations open, as opposed to, you know, knowing how exactly we're supposed to be showing up.
We don't have, oh, that's right, we don't have a September meeting, do we?
A work session, we do not have.
No.
Yeah, so we wouldn't be able to, like, so I guess Jenny's, suggestion
The one
is.
meeting, the single meetings that happened last year, you know, obviously those were, in first meetings.
Right.
Staff took a lot of responsibility with those, which I appreciated at the time, and I don't know if that is how we want to maintain it forever. And so just voicing that was the
Yeah, and
existing reality.
I think that we had also talked about this kind of at the work session too, that we really need to focus on what's the purpose of these, how is it serving us to kind of serve the community, you know, and if we have clear expectations of what it's supposed to look like, you know, so that there is some structure. I don't think that we would necessarily be able to approve anything prior to the first meeting, but we could at least circulate a draft or something, and then at our work session in October, we could finalize it or whatever. So there you go. Any other questions, comments?
I just want to confirm with you, Linda, because there has to be a backup for an MSBA alternate, and you are listed there. Is that okay for you? Okay. I just want to make sure.
I have a question on SSD. When did they change it to morning meetings instead of evening meetings?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Do you need it changed?
No, I'm just saying, whoever put this in here, did they make a change on it?
Is that a weekend or a weekday?
So
I
they're
could get
usually-
the information and
okay,
get it
they're
back.
usually during the week in the evening time.
It's always been like, yeah, the first.
Does that
Monday.
affect your ability to do it, Brian?
It would depend, well, when they're scheduled ultimately.
They'll look into it and get back to me.
I
so I'm
think
just-
each committee
yeah,
should be
just
able to set.
looking at-
Well, that's the liaison
Yeah,
role
that's
to
what we do.
SSD. SSD
Right.
governing
That's
is
what we do.
their meeting, we just attend it.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The time works, so it's fine for
that
me.
works.
They're usually evenings.
Are those meetings via Zoom? Or are they in person?
No, we voted to go back in person. Yeah.
I have a question. Yeah. So the other members of the community that are assigned to or not assigned, but volunteered at some point to be on these advisory committees, these board committees, I assume these are individuals that volunteered, last December, January, when there was a call. Do we know if they're still interested? Is that the task of the board chair, or the committee chair at some point, to reach out to them? I know the email I received to get the ball rolling on starting the committee I'm on, it did not include the members of the public, so to speak. It was just among staff and the two board members.
So I think the initial email per the conversation we had at the last board meeting was to gauge the availability of the board members for those committees. So we didn't send the communication out to the other individuals because we first need to see what the board members' availability is. But we actually communicated to those that they would actually have an opportunity to continue since we just started them. And then we will be sending communication out saying, you know, it's open if you're interested. And then we have the times and dates and locations, so that information, so that they will know what the obligation is for them. So that once we get all of the other dates and times, I think we're only waiting for our resources. So once you and Trent are able to identify when you're able to meet.
I've sent mine in already.
So when,
Mine in too.
okay, perfect. So we'll get that scheduled. I think once Mike gets back into town after taking his daughter to college. But everybody else is scheduled, so those individuals who were there will receive information, and then we will move from there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I don't remember the exact timing, but the discussion last year when we approved the participants into the committees, we did say there was some sort of time horizon that their participation was for.
The rest of their lives?
No, fortunately, it wasn't a life sentence. So,
Any other comments, questions, concerns?
So maybe we should figure that out, what the commitment people anticipate.
Sure.
Can I ask in regards to, just to clarify the school liaison positions, because I am going to send information out to the principals. Just want to make sure that those assignments are correct.
Yeah, those were based on the feedback I got, but let me know if. And I know Katie, you're alone at the high school, but I think the rest of us have a high schooler, so you will never be alone.
Perfect.
Shall we move on?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to calendar of events. August 16th, the Friday Night Lights student event for the middle high school track. It'll be at 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Great opportunity to go out there, and I think there are going to be food trucks and stuff, so that'll be fun. August 17th, back to school fair, because apparently we are going back to school. So that will also be on the middle high school track, and I believe there will be face painting there, maybe, I don't know. Anyway.
Raffles for green tickets for the Cardinals game.
Oh, for green, yeah. Yeah.
Bubble bus, balloon artists.
Nice, nice. Awesome.
Is there a specific expectation of board members, or are we just invited to attend as parents and grandparents?
This is for back to school?
Correct.
I signed up to appear as a board member, I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So some people
All right.
have jobs, great, okay.
Yeah.
All right,
So you
right.
can be a parent.
All right, perfect. All right, the big day, August 19th, first day of school. We are really excited about that. We're hoping to have 100% attendance. Looking forward to using the new buildings and facilities and stuff. So, anyway, August 26th, first day of school for the pre-K. Same thing. Hopefully, we'll have 100% attendance and everybody will be excited about learning. September 5th, community roundtable. All right, so this is pretty exciting. We're going to I think we're going to have a discussion about curriculum, if I'm not mistaken. Is that what the...
That was my question about deciding the topic.
Oh.
I would advocate for a conversation about finances and district budgeting. I think both is an opportunity to look backwards at the work that this board did in advance of approving this year's budget, but also in thinking ahead, because that is such a important topic to the community and to the teaching corps and to all of us. I can appreciate that curriculum is also an important issue. I just don't know what sort of feedback we'd be looking for from the community about curriculum at this point in time. I think it's certainly a good discussion topic at maybe one of the community conversations, but as far as like a dialogue roundtable sort of event, I would advocate for a more finance-focused opportunity.
That's fine, and I think you had also indicated to me that there is sort of a pressing need to have it earlier rather than later, because if we are going to do anything, we need to move pretty quickly as far as approving language, and so that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. Illuminating the timelines of how school finance needs to work and how changes get made, I think is it moves more quickly than I think folks who aren't in the weeds of it will always be thinking about, so, yeah.
Okay. So, I guess is that something we want to just agree to do, or do we need to vote on it now, or?
I think we should decide now because that's going to take
Yeah,
some
all right,
time
so
for
let's,
them to prepare.
so can I get a motion to approve a financial discussion for our first, community roundtable?
Motion to approve a community roundtable focused on finances.
Can I get-
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye. All right, any opposed? No?
No, but could we also, I think maybe, what would be helpful also as part of that, just to, is sort of like how tax rates work and how they set would be helpful too, like a
Right.
idiot's guide to that, if we can.
And
Yeah.
thank you for reminding me,
For me.
Jenny, about
me.
tax rates. So,
me.
Mr. Holzer, you mentioned the conversation or bringing something back in October after tax rates are set, but tax rates actually get set in September. Is that?
Prior to October. They
Okay,
have to be
so-
approved prior to October.
So we will be setting tax rates at the September board meeting,
Right.
as we historically have. Okay, just wanted to make sure I heard that correctly.
All right. All right, so now we have the perpetual calendar review, 6.03.
Appreciate the feedback taken from last conversation. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments about the calendar?
Okay, so is it me, did I click on the wrong one? Because it looked like the same one we did last time, but I know it was updated, so.
So the comments are off to the side.
Oh, I just-
Comments off to the side, and then we updated the
Gotcha.
items that were
Oh, that's
actually suggested. So the items that were included were the recognition times for varying parts of the month for gun violence awareness, LGBTQIA History Month, and then Black History Month were all added in those months that were indicated. And then we also made adjustments to some of the program evaluations to modify them to odd and fiscal years. And then we removed the ones that we discussed from policy IM.
It's just not shown on the one that I clicked on, but I'll follow up after to figure out what I'm doing wrong, because I'm sure it's me. So,
And
clear
and
the
we also
cookies or something
redlined it
right
too, Jenny, for you, because I know one of the things
yeah,
that was
see, we're-
asked, that if we
on
made
mine, see?
changes to something to actually
Yes, thank you.
redline it. So, for example, the October work session, initially, the buildings were to present twice, so we modified that to 3 times a year and then added an additional date
Okay,
for that.
yeah, well, I'll figure it out later.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and now we've got the action items that were removed.
Do we have to do a motion to approve it first?
Well, which, I
It was,
forgot.
okay. 2.06, which is MOU,
Okay, all right, so,
it's an action item, I think.
gotcha. Yeah. Can I get a motion to approve item 2.06, the MOU ELE Success Maker reading?
Motion to approve the MOU Elementary Success Maker reading.
Second.
Questions?
Yeah, I wanted to ask because, so I know I got a response today, but just for the benefit of public discussion. So this is a optional thing for elementary students or teachers to do. And it's part of a study, but is it a new program or it's an existing program, they're just doing a study?
So it's actually new, and so
Okay.
the vendor reached out and wanted to complete a study, and it is an opt-in, and the teachers are compensated, and all of their work
Yeah.
is outside of the contractual hours. So if a teacher is not interested in using their resources, they don't have to.
And is I Googled it so I could learn what it was, and it says it's used as a supplement to classroom reading instruction. It's designed to be individualized for each student. So does it help identify gaps that students have?
So gaps, and also when you think about the groups of students that continue to struggle academically, so Black and brown students, students who are supported through special school district. So the goal is for them to actually use the resource, and then we would actually have to report based on whatever assessment tool that they're using to show whether or not the program is beneficial.
And so we're not, I guess my question is this not something we're already doing, or teachers have autonomy in which way they do that, I guess was my.
So can I ask Ms. Elam to come up, because she actually is the person
Yeah,
who.
no, please.
Thank
yeah.
you.
Good evening, board. Success Maker reached out to us, and they had an opportunity for us to pilot their reading program. With this program, students would be able to, if they are reading above grade level or below grade level, be able to work in an adaptive program outside of their instructional time to practice different phonics, grammar. It's aligned to the science of reading. It also has the opportunity for them to look at the tiers, and teachers can assign different tasks to students based off of the programming. What really caught my attention was that they said after doing the pilot, we would get the program for free for 3 years. So it's something that if teachers found valuable, they would still be able to use it as a resource to be able to support students in their reading.
Okay, so do we know how many teachers are interested?
11 teachers signed up. I have 10 that actually teach ELA. One of them, the reading specialist, as well as an ESOL teacher, signed up as well, just so that they can utilize it with students that they support as well.
I guess I'm just thinking, okay, and then I guess for this, it was not, I'm wondering if we could make it clear, because it does say in here that they can cancel the study at any time, and so my question is, what happens if they cancel it? I mean, from a drafting standpoint, I think I'd like it a little clearer that they are obligated to still provide the 3 years, personally, because the way I read it, I mean, I would hate for our teachers, I know they're compensated, I'm sorry, Linda, they're compensated outside of it, but like, you know, we're starting something with kids, and if they just are like, oh, we're not doing this anymore, and then, you know, you sort of have, and then we don't get the benefit that we're supposed to get, I guess that was just.
So it was vetted through legal,
Okay.
through our legal counsel. We can send it back if we want to modify language, if the board
I
collectively
mean,
wants
I
to do
just
that.
would prefer it say, because it's like implied, but in 7, it says, this MOU does not guarantee the study will be undertaken, and the study may be canceled by SAVIS at any time. In the event the study is canceled prior to the start date, benefits described in 11 will be provided, but it doesn't say, it's just unclear to me. Like, I'd prefer that to say, but you will still receive the benefits under Section 9, which is the three free years, I guess. Because if it's a good program, then I would think we would want to continue it regardless of the study.
So I was gonna ask if it's the will of the board to modify the agreement and take it back to them to see if they would add the language so that I can have consistency, so I know what my next steps are.
I mean, you have
I mean, my only concern is, you know, I don't know what was done ahead of time to get this contract where it is. So if that mucks up whatever negotiations they had already done, that might be an issue.
Yeah, I guess I just see it, you know, I love that when we get free stuff, but when it's something that like could just go away, it's like, what's the value in it then? Because you've had these kids start a program and then like, I don't know, that's a concern to me.
Yeah, I hear your concern there, and I think it's admirable for sure, and I also, you know, not being an attorney, but being attorney proximate, you know, I wonder about if, you know, how much of a stink we put up. Do they just say, you know what, forget it, we'll find a different school district, it's not gonna give us a hard time about this thing? That might happen, you're right, but probably isn't gonna happen, you know, again.
And even if it does,
I'm just focusing back on the student, which is like sort of our main concern is that like, you know, and I'm just phrasing it, and I get it, so.
Well, I think that also too, I mean, you're getting like a resource, right? And they're like whatever enrichment they receive from it for whatever period of time, they're still receiving an enrichment. And
Right.
and so I think that, you know, what's the harm of, even if they do cancel it, you know, and also here, I mean, the converse is also true. What happens if it sucks, you know?
Okay, and I guess I'm sort of taking in a lot of data we receive from teachers about like, you know, having all this stuff. I get they're compensated, but you're also saying, well, here's a way you can enrich your students. You know, maybe you're not doing it for the gift card, you're doing it for enriching their reading. So it's just, I'm just trying to balance all that. And I'm not saying don't do it. That was just something that kind of caught my eye as sort of a concern in it, but.
No, and I get
I'm
it,
not saying don't do it. That was just a
I mean, you're never gonna
suggestion.
you're never going to be able to draft like a perfect contract. You're never going to be able to like draft away all the possibilities.
But my point is, if they intend to give you the 3 years, then they shouldn't mind just clarifying that also. So.
I mean, again, I'm just wary of going back over someone else's work. Anyway, do you want to vote on it?
You guys, I'm just one person.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Does anybody else express an interest? How about we just vote, all right?
Well, I just, maybe one question then. How many teachers do we anticipate would, and will want to take up
You
this?
said 11.
11.
11
11?
so far.
And it's 10 teachers who are
In the
ELA
classroom.
teachers.
Yeah.
So,
Right, yeah, I got that. Okay. I missed the 11.
We have an open motion, I guess, right?
Can I get a
Second.
okay.
Yeah, right, we're in the discussion.
Okay, all right. All right, thanks. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
So it sounds like we're revising.
Just if we can just ask them to clarify it.
I know they have done it before, so
Yeah.
it's fine. I can reach out to them. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Did you have another item?
Yeah, it was just the Chartwells thing.
Okay,
I just
sure.
had a real quick question about that.
All right, so can I get a motion to approve 2.09 Chartwell's contract review? I'm sorry, renewal.
Move to approve the Chartwell's contract renewal.
Second.
You had a question?
Yeah, I just had a quick question. Let me just pull it up, sorry. Are these rates the same as last year, or are they different?
But they are, I believe, the same, yes.
They're exactly the same?
I believe so, yes.
Increase there, okay. That was it, because I just wanted to make sure, because that would have a fiscal impact, and I was just curious about the budget impact if they changed.
I will double check.
Okay, because it's per meal, right? So that's how they
Yeah.
charge us?
So I did ask that question, so that was the reason why we didn't have amount. Normally, we put what the fiscal impact would be, but it's based on the number of meals, and I believe that Mike told me that there's an administrative cost associated with that. We did look at the trend data for expenditures, and we're trending down based on our first year of working with Chartwell, so we're starting to see some better revenue sources.
Yeah, your startup year is always going to be a bit more expensive, but we are trending in the right direction.
Right, but that's what I'm saying, because they charge us per meal, right?
Sure.
So
Yes.
sorry. So that,
Yeah, it does
if that
scale.
went up, then
It
I know
scales.
if you sell less, it's down, but still, that was my question. But we think the pricing stayed the same.
Yes.
It's
Okay.
fixed,
All right,
yes.
thank you. That was it, thank you.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No? All right, motion carries. Is there anything else? No? All right, so,
Adjourn? Second?
all right, all in favor? Aye. All right, thanks, everybody.